So let's start today with AS level physics, paper 2, variant 1, May June 2025. So today we are solving AS physics, paper 2, variant 1, May June 2025. We have some data points initially. You can see these, and let's start maybe from here. Chalo. Define acceleration. What is acceleration? Acceleration is rate of change of velocity. Acceleration क्या होती है definition? Rate of change of velocity. Perfect. In an experiment, two objects A and B are released from the side of a building as shown in figure 1.1. ठीक है, दो objects हैं जो कि release किए गए हैं from the side of a building. No problems in that. Okay, perfect. ठीक है. Object A is released from rest. Okay, so the initial velocity of object A is 0 at a height of 14 meters above horizontal ground. Okay. Object B is released with an initial velocity u at a height of 3.6 meter above the ground. Okay. Both objects take the same time to reach the ground and they do not collide with each other. Air resistance is negligible. बेटा एयर रेजिस्टेंस इज नेग्लिजिबल का मतलब क्या है? एयर रेजिस्टेंस इज नेग्लिजिबल का मतलब ये है कि योर एक्सेलरेशन विल हैव अ मैग्नीट्यूड ऑफ 9.81 ms minus 2. एयर रेजिस्टेंस इज नेग्लिजिबल का मतलब क्या है? योर एक्सेलरेशन विल हैव अ मैग्नीट्यूड ऑफ 9.81 ms minus 2. Perfect. Calculate the time taken for object A to reach the ground. Okay, we have to calculate the time taken for object A to reach the ground. Make this as a key point here. बेटा यहाँ पे एक की पॉइंट लिख लो. वेन एवर यू हैव वेक्टर क्वांटिटीज इन द क्वेश्चन, जब भी आपके पास क्वेश्चन में वेक्टर क्वांटिटीज होती हैं, द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट यू विल डू इज यू मार्क द एक्सेस. आप एक्सेस मार्क कर देते हो. एक्सेस मार्क करना क्या होता है बेटा? आप बता देते हो कि अपवर्ड वेक्टर्स कौन सी डायरेक्शन रिप्रेजेंट करेंगे, डाउनवर्ड वेक्टर्स कौन सी डायरेक्शन रिप्रेजेंट करेंगे. एंड इट्स टोटली योर चॉइस. मैंने यहाँ पे कह दिया है कि अपवर्ड वेक्टर्स आर नेगेटिव, डाउनवर्ड वेक्टर्स आर पॉजिटिव. आप रिवर्स कहना चाहते हो, यू कैन डू दैट एज वेल. इट्स टोटली योर चॉइस, बट यू हैव टू मार्क द एक्सेस. प्लीज रिमेंबर दैट. ठीक है. whenever you have vector quantities in the equation, first चीज क्या करेंगे? एक्सेस मार्क करेंगे. अपवर्ड नेगेटिव, डाउनवर्ड पॉजिटिव. ओके. Calculate the time taken for object A to reach the ground. What is the initial speed of object A? 0. Object A is moving downward like this. 14 meters. Object A 14 meters downward move कर रहा है. Displacement क्या हो जाएगी? It is downward. Displacement will become positive 14. S is equals to positive 14. Can you realize acceleration is 9.81 ms minus 2? Acceleration due to gravity always acts downwards. That means this acceleration of 9.81 ms minus 2 will be written like this. A is equals to 9.81 ms minus 2. Simple. Now you have to calculate the time. Time निकालने से. How will we do that? S is equals to ut plus half at square. Your initial velocity u is 0. This entire term will become 0. S क्या है? 14 is equals to half into acceleration, that is 9.81 into t square. What does your value of time comes out to be? Time की value क्या आ जाती है? 14 into 2 divided by 9.81 taken under root. This gives you your value of time. Let's calculate this value of time. 14 into 2 divided by 9.81. Let's take an under root of this. This comes out to be 1.7. Time क्या आ गया बेटा? 1.7 seconds. Use your answer in B part 1 to calculate U. आपने B part 1 में जो टाइम का आंसर लिया है, इसको यूज करके U निकालनी. U is the velocity of object B. Now, can you read this statement? Both objects take the same time to reach the ground. दोनों objects same time ले रहे हैं to reach the ground. Okay. So the time taken by ball B or by object B will be 1.7 seconds as well. The initial speed of object B, initial speed of object B क्या है? Upward direction में है. Hence, this will be written as negative. Why? Because upward vectors are considered to be negative according to my axes. You can make the reverse axis as well. Acceleration has a value of 9.81 ms minus 2. Perfect. And is there anything else that is left? Yeah, we have the displacement as well. B की displacement क्या है? Downward direction में 3.6 meters. So S will be equal to positive 3.6 meters. Can you apply the formula now? Yes, S is equals to ut plus half at square. S की वैल्यू क्या है? 3.6. U क्या है? नेगेटिव U. टाइम इज 1.7 plus half into acceleration, that is 9.81, into time का square, that is 1.7 square. Let's calculate 9.81 into 1.7 का square. Okay. 3.6 is equals to negative 1.7 U plus 14.2. Bring 3.6 to the other side, 1.7 U to the left side. 14.2 minus 3.6. This comes out to be what? 1.7 U is equals to 10.6, you can say, divided by 1.7. Your velocity U comes out to be 6.2 meters per second. Velocity U किसके इक्वल आ गई है? 6.2 meters per second. Easy peasy. Let's move ahead. In a second experiment, okay, in a second experiment, object B is released, okay, object B is released from the same height and given the same initial speed as in B, but at a release angle theta to the vertical. अब देखो बेटा, आप हर चीज सेम कर रहे हो, but now you are releasing it at an angle, okay. State and explain whether the time taken for object B to reach the ground is less than, the same, or greater than the time in B part. देखो बेटा, पुराना सिनेरियो क्या था? इन द ओल्ड सिनेरियो यू हैड अ वर्टिकल वेलोसिटी ऑफ यू. न्यू सिनेरियो क्या है? आपके पास एक वर्टिकल वेलोसिटी है. दैट इज अ कंपोनेंट ऑफ यू. दिस विल बी इक्वल टू यू कोसाइन थीटा. कैन यू रियलाइज इन द न्यू सिनेरियो? Can you realize in the new scenario your velocity has decreased? Or you can say, when you are releasing it at an angle, the initial vertical velocity has decreased. The height which it reaches will decrease. Hence, it takes lesser time for the ball to reach the ground. Sir, how will I write my answer? You will write your answer somewhat like this. You will say, the initial vertical velocity decreases. Vertical velocity decreases, hence the hence the vertical height reached by the ball decreases. What will happen? This causes the ball to reach the ground in a lesser time. Simple. Let's further move ahead. By considering energy changes, state and explain the effect of change in the release angle on the speed at which B reaches the ground. Okay. तो बेटा हो ये रहा है, आप ऑब्जेक्ट को यहाँ पे रिलीज कर रहे हो एंड ऑब्जेक्ट यहाँ पे ग्राउंड पे हिट कर रहा है. दिस इज योर जर्नी. ओके, दिस इज योर जर्नी. परफेक्ट. कैन यू रियलाइज इवन इफ द रिलीज एंगल चेंजेस? बेटा अगर आप थीटा को चेंज भी कर देते हो तो द हाइट फ्रॉम विच यू आर रिलीजिंग द बॉल रिमेन सेम. बेटा अगर रिलीज एंगल आप चेंज भी कर देते हो बच्चे, लेट से अगर ये 30 है, आप इसको, ये थीटा जो है 30 डिग्री था, आप इसको 60 डिग्री कर देते हो, लेट्स से 45 डिग्री कर देते हो, अगर एंगल चेंज भी कर देते हो तो द हाइट फ्रॉम विच द बॉल इज रिलीज्ड वो तो सेम रहेगी. इफ द हाइट फ्रॉम विच द बॉल इज रिलीज्ड अगर सेम रहेगी तो इनिशियल ग्रेविटेशनल पोटेंशियल एनर्जी सेम रहेगी. If the initial gravitational potential energy or the gravitational potential energy at the start remain same, kinetic energy at the end will remain same. Hence, the velocity with which ball reaches the ground remains same despite of the release angle. How will you write the answer? You will say the height from which the ball is released, from which the object B, I would say, from which the object B is released remains same or constant. Hence, gravitational potential energy at the start remains constant or same. Hence, gravitational potential energy at the start or at the start remains constant. Perfect. Since the total energy of object B remains same, the kinetic energy at the ground will remain unchanged despite of the release angle. Will remain unchanged regardless or despite, regardless of the release angle. I would say that's better English. Regardless of the release angle. And the last statement, you will say, hence, the speed at which B reaches the ground remains unchanged. Remains unchanged. Simple as that. Let's move ahead. The state principle of movements. I think this is very, very easy for an object. For an object to be in equilibrium. For an object to be in equilibrium, the sum of anti-clockwise movements will be equal to what? Sum of clockwise movements. Simple. Let's further move ahead. Three objects A, B, and C are on a horizontal beam. The beam is in equilibrium. बेटा इक्विलिब्रियम का क्या मतलब होता है? इक्विलिब्रियम के दो मतलब होते हैं. क्लॉकवाइज मूवमेंट इज इक्वल टू एंटी क्लॉकवाइज मूवमेंट्स. Secondly, resultant force will be equal to zero. These are the two meanings of equilibrium as shown in figure 2.1. Okay. The beam is uniform and has a length of 6 meters. The beam is pivoted at its midpoint on the beam. बेटा अगर आप pivot midpoint पे कर रहे हो तो that means this distance is 3 meters and this distance is also 3 meters. Perfect. Object A has a mass of 60 kg and is at one end of the beam. अच्छा जी, ऑब्जेक्ट ए का मास क्या है? 60 kg. इस तरह से what will be the weight? 60 into 9.81. What does this come out to be? 60 into 9.81. 558 or 589, I would say. Correct to three significant figures. Object B has a weight of 45 kg. Okay. So ये weight क्या हो जाएगा? Oh, sorry. Object B has a mass of 45 kg. Weight क्या हो जाएगा? 45 into 9.81. What does this weight come out to be? 45 into 9.81. This comes out to be 441. Okay, okay, okay. Object C has a mass of 80 kg. Weight क्या हो जाएगा? 80 into 9.81. What does this come out to be? 80 into 9.81. This comes out to be 785 Newton. Perfect. You have to calculate x. आपने x निकालना है. What is x? X is this value. How will you do that? You will say that anti-clockwise moments का sum is equals to clockwise moments का sum. Now, if you realize this 589 Newton की force, this 589 Newton की force is creating an anti-clockwise moment. 589 multiplied by the distance, that is 3. 589 into 3 plus यहाँ पे 441 न्यूटन की फोर्स है. That is also causing an anti-clockwise moment. Multiply it with x. So 441 into x. Then you have a 4785. This is causing a clockwise movement. Multiplied by the distance, that is 3. 785 into 3. Can you calculate this small little x? Yes. 441x is equals to 785 into 3 minus 589 into 3. What will your answer come out to be? 785 into 3, 589 into 3 divided by 441. X comes out to be 1.3 meters. Simple. Let's further move ahead. आगे क्या लिखा हुआ है? Let's see. The beam is 0.8 meters above horizontal ground. You can see this here. Okay. Object A is removed and replaced by a spring connected to the ground and the beam as shown in figure 2.2. ठीक है, ये spring हमने यहाँ पे connect कर दिया है by removing object A. Okay. After the change, the beam is again horizontal and again in equilibrium. Equilibrium की क्या meaning होती है बच्चे? Clockwise moment is equals to anti-clockwise moment. And secondly, resultant force will also be equal to 0. बेटा अगर बीम वापस से इक्विलिब्रियम में आ गई है, व्हाट डज दिस मीन? कि ये जो ब्लॉक फोर्स लगा रहा था 58 न्यूटन की, अब वो सेम फोर्स अप्लाई हो रही है बाय द स्प्रिंग. पहले जो ब्लॉक फोर्स लगा रहा था 589 न्यूटन की, अब वही चीज स्प्रिंग कर रहा है टू मेंटेन इक्विलिब्रियम. The spring has an unstretched length of 0.59 newtons or 59 meters. बेटा unstretched length का क्या मतलब होता है? It is the length of spring when no force is applied. Simple. Calculate the spring constant K. You have to calculate the spring constant. बेटा स्प्रिंग कांस्टेंट के निकालने का क्या फॉर्मूला होता था? फोर्स डिवाइडेड बाय एक्सटेंशन. व्हाट इज द फोर्स दैट इज एक्टिंग हियर? 589. एक्सटेंशन क्या है? टोटल लेंथ इज 0.8. आपकी अनस्ट्रेच्ड लेंथ इज 0.59. कैन यू कैलकुलेट द स्प्रिंग कांस्टेंट? 589 minus 0.8 minus 0.59. The spring constant comes out to be 2800 Newton per meter. Simple. Now you have to calculate the elastic potential energy of the spring. Elastic potential energy of the spring is equals to 1 upon 2 Fe. बेटा फोर्स क्या लग रही थी? हाँ जी, 589. एक्सटेंशन क्या थी? What was your extension? 0.8 minus 0.59, that is 0.21. Let's see this answer. 589 into 0.21 divided by 2. This comes out to be 61.8. 61.8 joules is your answer. Obviously, you can round it off till two significant figures. That will become 62 joules. That will also be perfectly fine. Three significant figures is also fine. You can either give your answers to two significant figures or three significant figures. It doesn't matter. Now you have to define power. Power क्या है? Yes, power की definition याद है किसी को? Work done per unit time. Work done per unit time. Okay, let's further move ahead. आगे बढ़ते हैं. An electric car is powered by a motor. Okay. The car is traveling at a constant speed of 35, okay, along a straight horizontal road as shown in figure 3.1, okay. There is a resistive force of 1750 Newton acting on the car. Calculate the power transmitted to the wheels of the car by the motor. Power का क्या formula पड़ा है? Force into velocity. Force is 1750 multiplied by the velocity, that is 35. What will this come out to be? 1750 into 35. This comes out to be 61250 watts. Simple. Now you have to calculate the useful work done by the motor when the car travels a distance of 17 kilometers. आपने work done निकालना है when the car travels a distance of 17 kilometers. You will say force into distance. Force क्या थी बेटा? 1750. Distance क्या है? 17 kilometers. 17 into 1000 because of this kilometer. What does your work done comes out to be? हाँ जी, work done क्या आ जाता है बच्चों? Work done comes out to be 3 into 10 raised to the power of 7 joules. Simple. Let's further move ahead. आगे बढ़ते भाई. The potential difference across the motor has a value of 600 volts and the motor has an efficiency of 85%. Calculate the current in the motor. Okay. You have to calculate the current in the motor. Easy peasy. Just sit back and relax. बेटा क्या आपने पावर आउटपुट निकाली है? हैव यू कैलकुलेटेड द पावर आउटपुट? जी सर, ये रही पावर आउटपुट 61250. सो पावर आउटपुट इज 61250 व्हाट्स. Efficiency is 85%. What is the formula of efficiency? Efficiency is equals to power output divided by the power input multiplied by 100. Efficiency क्या है? 85. पावर आउटपुट क्या है? 61250. पावर इनपुट क्या है? 600 volts into the current I multiplied by 100. Take 100 to the other side, this becomes 0.85. 61250 divided by 600 into current. करंट की क्या वैल्यू आ जाएगी? 61250 डिवाइडेड बाय 600 इंटू 0.85. करंट की क्या वैल्यू आ गई बेटे? What does the value of current comes out to be? 120 ampere. Simple. Okay, let's further move ahead. The car in B now reaches a slope as shown in figure 3.2. ठीक है, ये कार यहाँ पे एक स्लोप पे रीच कर जाती है. The car continues down the slope as the same speed in B. Okay. State and explain the effect, if any, of the slope on the air resistance acting on the car. बेटा स्लोप का एयर रेजिस्टेंस पे क्या इफेक्ट होगा? बेसिकली नो इफेक्ट. व्हाई? बिकॉज द वेलोसिटी ऑफ द कार on the slope remains unchanged. Hence, air resistance will remain unchanged. So you will say, since velocity remains unchanged, air resistance will remain unchanged. Air resistance acting on the car remains unchanged. Okay, what happens to the current in the motor? What happens to the current in the motor? Now you have to realize one thing. Beta, as the car is moving down the slope, what is happening? Gravitational potential energy is getting converted into kinetic energy. As the car is moving down the slope, gravitational potential energy is getting converted into kinetic energy. This conversion of gravitational potential energy into kinetic energy will complement the power provided by the motor. बेटा ग्रेविटेशन पोटेंशियल एनर्जी अगर काइनेटिक एनर्जी में कन्वर्ट हो रही है तो मोटर को अब कम पावर प्रोवाइड करनी पड़ेगी. देखो इनिशियली क्या था. इनिशियली यू वर ऑन अ हॉरिजॉन्टल रोड. All the power, all the energy was being provided by the motor of the car. But now, since the car is moving down the slope, gravitation potential energy gets converted into kinetic energy. Your motor has to provide less power. बेटा इसके एग्जाम्पल वही है. आपने नोटिस किया होगा कि गाड़ी की स्पीड या गाड़ी को चलाना स्लोप पे आसान हो जाता है कंपेयर टू अ हॉरिजॉन्टल रोड. स्लोप पे गाड़ी खुद ब खुद तेज होती रहती है without even pressing the accelerator. This is the example in real life for this scenario. What will you say? You will say the as the car moves down, gravitation potential energy gets converted into kinetic energy. Hence, less power is provided by motor and hence current decreases. Simple. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Let's move ahead. Now let's see this. State the principle of superposition. What will you say? When two or more waves meet at a point. When two or more waves meet at a point, overlap at a point. When two or more waves meet slash overlap at a point, the resultant displacement is the sum of individual displacements. Is the sum of individual displacements. Simple. Let's further move ahead. Light has a wavelength of this, okay. This is your A, this is your wavelength, okay. A screen is at a distance D from the double slit. The double slit and screen are parallel, okay. The separation of the slits in the double slit is 0.16 millimeter. This is A. The resulting interference pattern on the screen contains 9 dark fringes as shown in figure 4.2. ठीक है, 9 dark fringes हैं यहाँ पे. उनके बीच का distance is 3.2. So from one dark fringe to the other dark fringe, this is x. From one dark fringe to another dark fringe, this is another x. From one dark fringe to another dark fringe, this is one more x. One dark fringe to another dark fringe, one more x. One more x. Another x. Another x. Another x. How many x's do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8x is equals to 3.2 centimeter. X क्या है? Fringe separation, the distance between two dark fringes. X comes out to be 0.4 centimeter. Just keep it here. Maybe we need it in the future. The distance between the center of first dark fringe and the 9 dark fringes. This you have to calculate D. Okay. What is the formula for Young's double slit experiment? X is equals to lambda D over A. आपने क्या निकालना है? D. Let's make D the subject. XA over lambda is equals to D. What is the value of X? 0.4 centimeter. 0.4 into 10 is the power of minus 2. What is the value of A? Slit separation. 0.16 millimeter. 0.16 into 10 is the power of minus 3. Divided by lambda. What is your wavelength? 7.2 into 10 is the power of minus 7. 7.2 into 10 is the power of minus 7 is equals to your distance capital D. Can you calculate this answer? 0.4 into 10 is the power of minus 2 into 0.16 into 10 is the power of minus 3 divided by 7.2 into 10 is the power of minus 7. This comes out to be what? 0.4 8, you can say 0.89 meters. Correct to two significant figures. 0.89 meters comes out to be your distance d between the screen and the double slit. Okay. The slit separation is now gradually decreased from 0.16 millimeter to 0.04 millimeter. The distance between the center of the dark fringes is x. Okay. On figure 4.3, sketch the variation of x with slit separation. Okay. Beta, we know this formula. X is equals to lambda d over a. We know x and a are inversely proportional. When your slit separation was 0.16, x क्या था? 0.14. This is your first point. Now let's calculate two or more points. When your slit separation doubles, अच्छा मैं यहाँ पे एक second relationship लिख देता. Okay. Now let's say your slit separation halves. A half हो गया. Let's say 0.16, say you have gone to 0.08. What will happen? Your x will double. How will x double? It will go from 0.4 till 0.8. Somewhat here. Okay. These are your x values, these are your a values. Now let's say your a value further halves. Let's say आपने a की वैल्यू को 0.08 से 0.04 कर दिया, a को further half कर दिया, x क्या हो जाएगा? Further double 0.8 से 1.6. So maybe here. Can you draw a graph through these 3 points? Yes. Always remember, in inverse proportionality, if one variable halves, the other variable doubles. You mark the points and make a curve like this. Simple. Let's further move ahead. Use the definition of a speed, frequency, and wavelength to drive the wave equation. What is wavelength? What is wavelength? Nanda. Distance between two successive crest. Distance between two successive crests कह सकते हो. Distance between two successive in phase points कह सकते हो. ठीक है. Distance between two successive crest, I would like to say. What is frequency? Frequency is equals to number of oscillations. Number of oscillations. Okay. Now you have to drive this formula. बेटा अब आपने क्या करना है? ये फॉर्मूला को ड्राइव करना है. किस तरह करोगे? Now you know that speed is equals to distance over time. Okay. What is the distance? You can say distance is lambda. Time को हमने capital T time period से represent कर दिया. Further rearrange this equation. V is equal to lambda into 1 over time period, that is T. 1 over time period किसके equal हो जाएगा? Frequency के equal हो जाएगा. V is equal to F. Lambda is your answer. This is how you drive this equation. A source of sound wave of frequency 236 hertz. अच्छा जी, ये क्या है? आपकी frequency of sound है. Is traveling at a constant velocity of this. Okay. ये आपकी क्या आ गई? Velocity of the source आ गई. ठीक है, जिस स्पीड पे आपकी साउंड वेव का सोर्स ट्रैवल कर रहा है. A stationary observer has a microphone connected to a cathode ray oscilloscope. The microphone detects the sound wave as the source moves directly towards the observer. बेटा अगर सोर्स ऑब्जर्वर की तरफ जा रही होगी तो फ्रीक्वेंसी ऑब्जर्व्ड will obviously be greater. Okay, so remember this. The resulting traces on the CRO is shown in figure 5.1. Okay. The time-based setting is set to 1 millisecond per division. Okay. Calculate the frequency of sound wave detected by the microphone. You basically have to calculate frequency observed. How will you do that? बेटा आपको पता है 1 2 3 4 5 boxes on the x axis represent what? 1 millisecond. आपको क्या पता है बेटे? 5 boxes on the x axis represent 1 millisecond. ये हो गया 1 millisecond. ये फर्दर हो गया 1 millisecond. ये फर्दर हो गया 1 millisecond. This is also 1 millisecond. Can you realize a complete wave? Can you realize a complete wave कितने milliseconds में complete हो रही है? 1 1 1 1. What is the time period of this complete wave? 4 milliseconds. एक complete wave कितने time period में complete हो रही है बेटा? 4 millisecond. If you have the time period, can you calculate the frequency? Yes, sir. Let's do that. Time period is equals to 4 milliseconds. Frequency किसके equal हो जाएगी? 1 over time period. 1 over 4 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. What does your frequency comes out to be? Frequency क्या आ रही है? 250 hertz के equal. Now you have to calculate the speed of sound in air. You have to calculate the speed of sound in air. Basically, have to calculate V. How will you do that? You know, frequency observed is equals to the frequency of sound multiplied by the speed of sound divided by the speed of sound minus the speed of source. Okay. बच्चे, क्या आपके पास फ्रीक्वेंसी ऑब्जर्व्ड है? यस 250. क्या आपके पास फ्रीक्वेंसी ऑफ सोर्स है? यस 236. ओके. क्या आपके पास वेलोसिटी ऑफ साउंड है? नहीं है. वी को आपने ऐसे ही रहने देना. क्या आपके पास वेलोसिटी ऑफ सोर्स है? डू यू हैव द वेलोसिटी एट विच द सोर्स इज मूविंग? यस 20. परफेक्ट. लेट्स कैलकुलेट वी. 250 into v minus 20 is equals to 236v. 250v minus 250 into 20, this comes out to be negative 5000. 236v. Okay, now let's take negative 5000 to the other side. This becomes 5000. 14v is equals to 5000. v किसके इक्वल आ जाएगी? 5000 divided by 14. What does this answer comes out to be? This answer comes out to be 357. आपका स्पीड ऑफ साउंड का आंसर क्या आ गया? 357 मीटर्स पर सेकंड. चले जी आगे बढ़ते. Anichrome wire, okay, anichrome wire of length 45 centimeter, cross sectional area this, is connected into the circuit as shown in figure 6.1. Okay. The resistance of wire X is this, the EMF across the wire is this, and negligible internal resistance. Calculate the current in X. How will you calculate the current in X? You will use the formula V is equals to IR. Voltage क्या है? 1.3. Resistance क्या है? 1.1. What does the current comes out to be? Let's see. 1.3 divided by 1.1. This comes out to be 1.18 एम्पेयर. अच्छा, इसमें दो तरीके से आप आंसर लिख सकते हो. 1.18 एम्पेयर if you want to write it till 3 significant figures. 1.2 amperes if you want to write it till 2 significant figures. Both will be marked correct. It's a guarantee from my side. The examiner won't cut your marks. Okay. The number density of charge carriers, that is a small n, is this. Calculate the drift speed of the charge carrier in X. Okay. So the drift velocity is equal to what? Current divided by NAQ. What is the current? 1.18. N क्या है? 8.5 into 10 raised to the power of 28. What is the area? Area की value given है. Yes, 4.7 into 10 raised to the power of minus 7. 4.7 into 10 is the power of minus 7. What is the charge on an electron? ये Q क्या है? 1.6 into 10 is the power minus 19. What does your drift speed comes out to be? 1.9 into 10 raised to the power of minus 4 meters per second. Now you have to calculate the resistivity of the nichrome wire. Resistance is equals to resistivity into length divided by area. Can you make resistivity the subject? Yes, sir. Resistance into area divided by length is equals to resistivity. What was your resistance, beta? 1.1 ohm. क्रॉस सेक्शनल एरिया गिवन था बच्चे. यस. 4.7 10 raised to the power of minus 7. 4.7 into 10 raised to the power of minus 7. Length given थी बेटा. Length was 45 centimeter. Okay. So 45 into 10 raised to the power of minus 2. What does your resistivity comes out to be? 1.1 10 raised to the power of minus 6. 1.1 10 raised to the power of minus 6 comes out to be your resistivity. आगे बढ़ते. Wire Y is identical to wire X. Wire Y is added in the circuit in parallel with wire X as shown in figure 6.2. ठीक है. वायर Y को हमने पैरेलल में ऐड कर दिया टू वायर X. State and explain the effect, if any, of this change on the reading on the ammeter. बेटा, if you have this wire X, इसकी resistance X है. If you have this wire Y, let's do one thing. Wire Y is identical to wire X. Okay. Let's say this is resistance R. Let's say this is resistance R. If you connect two resistors in parallel, what will happen? The total resistance of the circuit decreases. If the total resistance of the circuit decreases, the current in the circuit increases, the reading on the ammeter increases. What will you say? As wire Y is connected in parallel, what will happen? The total resistance of circuit decreases, hence reading on ammeter increases. Okay. Now what happens to the drift speed of charge carriers in X? बेटा ये जो X वाला वायर है उसमें आपकी ड्रिफ्ट वेलोसिटी को क्या होता है? if you realize drift velocity किसके इक्वल होती है? करंट ओवर एन ए क्यू. The number of charge carriers in X is still the same. The area of X is same. The charge of electron is also the same. बेटा the current in wire X वो किस तरह निकालते हैं? वोल्टेज डिवाइडेड बाय रेजिस्टेंस. अभी भी वायर एक्स को सेम ही वोल्टेज रिसीव हो रही है बिकॉज दीज आर इन पैरेलल. इफ दिस इज 1.3 volts, वायर एक्स विल रिसीव 1.3 volts. दिस विल बी 1.3 volts एज वेल. वायर एक्स को अभी 1.3 वोल्ट रिसीव हो रही है. वायर एक्स की रेजिस्टेंस भी सेम है. दैट मींस करंट ऑफ वायर एक्स विल स्टिल बी सेम. Since all four quantities still remain same, the drift velocity of x remains same. What will you say here? Since the current across x remains same, the drift speed of x remains same. Simple as that, nothing complicated here. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Let's move ahead. Nitrogen 12 is an unstable isotope of hydrogen that decays by emission of radiation to carbon 12. अच्छा जी, nitrogen 12 7 is decaying to carbon 12 6. देख रहे हो प्रोटॉन नंबर 1 से डिक्रीज हो गया. whenever proton number decreases by 1, you emit a beta positive particle. You emit a beta positive particle. And with a beta positive particle, you emit a neutrino with this symbol. Hydrogen 1 is an isotope of hydrogen. An atom of hydrogen 1 comprises a proton and an orbiting electron. Okay, इसको highlight कर लेते हैं, कभी काम आ जाएगा. Comprises a proton with an orbiting electron. Okay. An antiparticle equivalent of hydrogen 1. Okay, an antiparticle equivalent of hydrogen 1 comprises an antiproton and an orbiting positron. Okay. The antiquarks in antiproton are antiparticles of the quarks and proton. Okay. State the charge of the positrons in terms of elementary charge. बेटा positron का charge क्या होता है? +1. Okay. State the group class of fundamental particles to which positrons belong. Leptons. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. In table 7.1, state the flavor and charge of the three antiquarks that comprise the antiproton. बेटा प्रोटॉन बनाने के लिए हमें क्या चाहिए होता था, अप कॉर्क अप कॉर्क डाउन कॉर्क। एंटी प्रोटॉन बनाने के लिए क्या चाहिए होगा, एंटी अप कॉर्क एंटी अप कॉर्क एंटी डाउन कॉर्क। So anti-up cork, anti-up cork, anti-down cork. What will be the charge of anti-up cork? Negative 2 over 3. Negative 2 over 3. Anti-down cork का charge क्या हो जाएगा? Positive 1 over 3. Simple. This marks the end of the paper. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comments.